Good morning, everybody. So lovely to see you. My name's Sarah Evers, and I'm here with my colleagues Andrew Burton and Chris Catto, and we're here to talk to you about our offers with Central Maths Hub and the Science Learning Partnership, so that we can talk about how we can work with you as schools to support and enhance the curriculum. Next slide, please. So I'm going to be talking to you along with my colleague Andrew Burton, and we are the Assistant Maths Hub leads for Central Maths Hub. So our focus is all around mathematics. Next slide, please. Now, there are quite a lot of colleagues on here at the moment who have experience working with Maths Hub, but not everybody has. So this is just a little bit of information about how we work and what Maths Hubs are all about. These are national, and it's all about partnership and collaborative working. We work with from early years right the way through up to post-16, and it's all about working and supporting professional development and schools with their curriculum in order to really enhance our maths provision across all phases. Next slide, please. So our region, excuse me, our region, as you can see, covers Sandwell, Dudley and Birmingham, and we have quite an extensive reach. It's just a map to give you an idea of how far we spread. Next slide, please. We also have attached to the Maths Hub what we call local leaders of maths education, and they are a range of people. We have teaching for mastery specialists, and they fall into the primary and secondary categories as well. We have mastery readiness leads as well, and across, as you can see, like, we worked with 190 schools last year, and we're proposing to work with even more this year. But this is just an idea. It's not everybody on there, but it's to give you an idea of the kind of spread that we have and where people can be located. We're looking to grow our local leaders of maths education. We've got a lot of people working with us again this year, so that will look very different towards the end of this year. Next slide, please. So I'm going to talk to you about the primary offer. Now, obviously, any questions you've got, you can put them into chat. My colleague Andrew Burton's just popped in a link to our opportunities document, which is accessible through this. It's also accessible on our website, and this outlines everything primary and secondary. And I'm going to give you a little bit of an idea of the kind of things we've got on offer. Key, first of all, are our Teaching for Mastery, is a Teaching for Mastery programme. Now, this is national and has been going for many years. We have two formats to that, which I'm going to talk about in a second. The first is the Mastery Readiness, and then obviously you've got the Teaching for Mastery Development, which has funding attached. And then the additional groups, which Year 5 to 8 are mentioned, and then we have Subject Knowledge, which is always hugely oversubscribed. And this covers different areas, as you can see there, from early years right the way through to teachers anywhere in primary, and specifically now our early career teachers. Next slide, please. So this is the pathway, as we call it, for Teaching for Mastery. And it involves 4 years of working alongside specialists and looking at mathematics within school. The first bit, which is the Mastery Readiness, which I will go into, is the stepping stone, and that's to do with looking whole school, and then we work through the other phases, development, we call it embedding, which is the building phase, and then sustaining, our refinement. And this is all about pedagogy and then looking whole school, and all of it is to do with standards for pupils and ensuring that all pupils can achieve in mathematics. Next slide, please. So Mastery Readiness, I'm a Mastery Readiness lead, and this is a programme that was piloted 3 years ago. We're now on our, so 4 years ago, we're now on our 3rd year of Mastery Readiness. And this is about the whole school picture. It's a superb programme, and as an ex-maths lead myself, I know had I had an opportunity to be on this, I would have jumped at it. What we look at here is we look at what we call catalysts for change. So we look at the areas there, we look at vision and shared culture, and then looking at mindsets, subject expertise for pupils, for teachers, sorry, systems in place, and then arithmetical proficiency. But all of this, the key to this program is it's absolutely bespoke to your school. And it's about collaboratively working with a group of up to 6 schools. We keep those localized where possible because it's so powerful, because those links that we make then, those schools continue on that journey, because this is the start of 4 years of work. And it is about sort of like working and identifying what you need as a school in order to be able to build on the good practice that you've already got, working with others to get ideas, and then actually sort of like professional development for subject leads and for teachers that are in school. And all of it is done with support from a mastery readiness specialist. It involves half-day visits in school or online at the moment, as it has to be, and obviously completely free of charge. Now, schools that are a big part of this programme have seen huge change, but all of it has been around what the school has needed. It's not a done-to programme. This is very much about enhancing what practice you've already got. Next slide, please. Now, we want to talk to anybody that's interested in starting and looking. If maths is a priority in school, which it is everywhere at the moment, along with obviously phonics and reading, we want to talk to you to see if we can help and we can start working with you. There are elements that we call criteria, but they are not the only things. But we do sort of, if you've got a new maths lead or you've got a maths lead that's early in post that we can work with and support, then that's the kind of work that we've been doing with schools. If it's been a priority identified by your school improvement advisor, again, that's another area that we can support you with. Data progress and attainment across school, that's another area that we support. Schools often have gone through quite high turnovers of staff, and obviously, again, that can mean new people. And this, again, is a support to look at whole school and how we can bring everybody together on board. There is obviously, if schools are in the category that I mentioned there, that's another criteria, but it doesn't matter. It's not about categories. We work with schools from every category, and it's more about what you need as a school. It's not about whether you fall into a specific category. And obviously some schools are in the different areas, particularly category 5 or 6 areas, and that is another way on board. But if you're interested in moving and change and looking at maths whole school, then this is a brilliant programme, and we would love to be able to speak to you about it and see if there's a way that we can work with you. Applications are online now. We can also ensure that application forms, I'll pop that into chat shortly so that people can access that if you are interested. And obviously our contact details are on at the end, so you can contact me directly or Maths Hub for more information. Next slide, please. So we have our Year 5 to 8 continuity work group, and then, as I said, we have the subject knowledge. Subject knowledge is always hugely oversubscribed, and they will be advertised, and you can register your interest there. But I'd just like to quickly mention the 5 to 8 continuity work group before handing over to Andy. This is a huge, next slide please. This is a huge national programme again, and it has been extended because one of the things that's come out of what we've been through over the last sort of 18 months to 2 years is this link and this transition. And this programme is designed to work alongside teachers in Year 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 and look so that we can ensure that there's continuity in pedagogy and curriculum between secondaries and primaries. We are looking to create sort of families of feeder schools and a secondary work group at the moment. And it's about people then looking and thinking about how we work together, because there's a lot of myths surrounding what goes on in secondary if you're a primary teacher, and a lot of myths going around what goes on in primary when you're a secondary teacher. However, this really works and breaks that down so people have those conversations and recognise the work that is going on. So that's a very whistle-stop tour of what we've got on offer for primary at the moment. So I'm going to hand over to Andy, my colleague now, who can talk to you about secondary. Thank you very much.
Okay, so my name's Andy Burton, and as you can see in front of you there, there's a whole array of different opportunities that are part of our secondary offer for this year. And the link that I put in the chat a couple of minutes ago, that will take you to these as well. The colour coding really is just to draw attention to different sections really. And I'm going to focus initially on the one at the top, the secondary teaching for mastery development. All of the programs that we deliver through the Central Maths Hub are free. The mastery development one does attract funding, and as you can see, that does attract £2,000 worth of funding this year. And it is our flagship program, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit more in more depth now. But we do, if you are interested in this particular opportunity, we do need applications very, very shortly. The actual induction program, the first initial session, is happening in sort of just before October half term, so it is happening really quite quickly. So next slide, please. So the flagship Teaching for Mastery program, it is part of a 3-year support package. I mean, if you are already involved in developing mastery, you will already be aware of the embedding and the embedding sustaining package, which are also part of this. But in the first instance, to get on the program, we encourage applications. So there is an application process in the first instance to get upon the development program. And again, let me just reissue the fact that if you are interested, there's something we need to act on fairly soon. So if you click on the next slide for me, please. So what tends to happen then, over the course of the first year, you have a mastery specialist, and the mastery specialist will work with 2 schools, and within each school there will be 2 what are called advocates. So they will work with that mastery specialist in relation to developing their own understanding. They will begin to support their department, but it's really to influence their understanding and their professional knowledge. The funding element of it really is to ensure that those 2 advocates can have the time to work with that mastery advocate. How that works, that's a relationship between the specialist and the advocates themselves. For example, I know that when I've run these sessions, I've tried to minimise cover if I can. Obviously, there are some cover applications, and you can use that funding then to develop your teaching or actually to buy some resources to support the department. So in year 2, it slightly changes. So the focus then is supporting those advocates into developing the maths leadership across their departments. There isn't an application process for year 2. It is just a case of you say that you want to continue with the program, and there is funding in year 2 as well. The funding isn't quite as much in year 2, but it's still £1,000 worth of funding to support that embedding of that mastery, those mastery strategies. What will then happen is the mastery specialist will work on the action plan that the advocates have come up with. So each school will come up with its own action plan of how they want to implement mastery within their setting. So it's very, very bespoke to what you want to do, rather than us saying you need to do this. So it is the specialist is supporting individual schools. If you, next slide, please. So in terms of our secondary offer then, so we spoke about the mastery, which is funded, the secondary offer which we're looking at this year. So there are a number of, again, these are all free CPD opportunities. So the secondary subject leadership work group, if you've got relatively new or inexperienced heads of departments in your maths department, and you want them to work with some support in terms of making changes to teaching and learning within your department, that's a new work group that we are working with this year. And actually, it's a wider level. If you are part of a multi-academy trust and you have actually people who are responsible for mathematics across the trust of schools, we do have a secondary maths leads work group as well. Again, that's a new one this year that's happening. So they are sort of focusing on leadership. In terms of the normal, the usual NCPs and national collaborative programs, we've got the year 7 to 11 coherence work group, which actually is been rebranded from last year. It was previously called challenging topics. And what we try and do there is we trace back, we look at particular topics where students have found the questions difficult to access in GCSE examinations, and we trace back to what did we do in year 7, what did we do in year 8, where did we begin to find problems with this particular problem, with this particular question? Why are the students finding this difficulty? And we look at the journey and the representations and the language that we use, and how do we teach that in a more coherent manner to help the students access those questions. Mathematical thinking is obviously related to the reasoning, and that's something which is really always going to be an issue with mathematics, and explaining what happens if, and if we make this conjecture, what happens next. Sarah mentioned the 5 to 8 continuity work group. Again, it's part of the COVID recovery plan, and what we're doing at the moment is setting up much smaller geographical networks of schools. So I'm aware of two networks that I'm going to be involved with this year. There's one in Stourbridge with 2 local secondary schools and a number of their feeder schools, again all in a very small community working together. There's sort of one in Albury in Sandwell, but again 2 secondary schools working closely together, and a number of their primary feeders again working with them. So we're going to, whilst we're focusing on those transitional elements between the primary and the secondary schools, we're also focusing on that common language of mathematics. And so I know that we've got those little networks set up in Sandwell and Dudley, and it would be fantastic to set one up in Birmingham as well. And just in relation to the subject knowledge for teaching mathematics, these will be happening fairly soon. So we will be recruiting for the collaborative work groups over the next term or so, and some of those will begin before Christmas, but the subject knowledge ones will be happening in the very near future. So please keep your eyes peeled for those. Next slide, please. So the main offer, if you like, we've spoken about as a secondary offer. I just wanted to draw your attention briefly to the fact that we do have a post-16 offer as well, and we do this in conjunction with AMSP. Next slide, please. And there really is just our contact details. So if there's anything that we've said that you want to ask questions about or get in touch with anybody in relation to the hub, then please do so. Thank you very much.
Does anybody have any questions that they'd like to ask myself or Andy about what we've talked about today?
Shall we hand over to Chris? But if anybody wants to post anything in the chat, or anybody wants to send us an email, then we'll obviously respond to them individually.
Thank you.
Thank you both. So I'm Chris Catto. I'm based at Bishop Challoner Catholic College in King's Heath in Birmingham, and I lead your local science learning partnership. So I'm just going to share my screen, and hopefully we can all see this. Maybe shout if we can't see it, or indicate in some ways. So I'm just going to talk you through what a science learning partnership is, and talk about our offers, what offers we have, and then there will be space for questions at the end as well. And please do get in touch if you want further information. First of all, just to let you know, what is a science learning partnership? Well, we deliver high quality, evidence-based CPD. It's on subject knowledge and pedagogical content knowledge. So in other words, how, not just what the knowledge for teaching science, but how to teach science as well, because it's taught in quite a specific way. We cover primary, secondary and FE, and our CPD is delivered by facilitators with a CPD quality mark. So it's all quality assured, and there's a rigorous training program to be able to deliver our CPD. The type of CPD and support that's available includes remote courses, face-to-face courses, conferences, network meetings, bespoke support, and subscriptions and packages. So I'll just talk to you a little bit about some of that support, which might be relevant for you. And please, like I say, do let me know if this is anything that people want to be involved with. So for example, our primary network, we are setting up remote and face-to-face subject leader meetings across Birmingham. And topics include recovery curriculum, priorities around Ofsted, and these will include 3 subject knowledge CPD sessions as well. So one on biology, part of the primary curriculum, one on the chemistry part of the primary curriculum, and one on the physics part of the primary curriculum. So it would be six after school sessions per school. That's going to cost, there is a cost to our CPD offer, but we basically are running it at cost. So for example, to join our primary network would cost £150, but that's for 1 year for as many teachers as you'd like from your primary school, delivered outside of school time. And we also do have conferences. I think that would tell us a little bit about our primary STEM conference that's taking place on the 1st of November. And we will actually have Jasper Green, who is the HMI Ofsted Inspector for Science. He's going to be delivering a keynote at that conference, and followed by a Q&A session. It's in Wolverhampton because we cover more than just Birmingham, so we do cover the West Midlands area, and there will be options for face-to-face and remote for that particular conference as well. We will then have some science, maths, computing and enrichment workshops available on that day, and we are pricing it reasonably at £100 per school to go there for the day, 75 if you want to send a second person, and 60 if you just want to go to the keynote plus one workshop and leave at lunchtime, or 30 if you just want to live stream the keynote. So please do get in touch. I think my slide's not working for this one. I don't fully understand why, but the other primary offer is we are running some face-to-face courses on working scientifically and leading primary science, and those will be at Bishop Challoner in November as well. So those could be of interest to some of our primary colleagues here. If I just move on to the secondary offer, it's fairly similar: remote courses, face-to-face courses, and we have got specific networks for heads of subject, early career teachers and technicians. The Zoom sort of thing is at the top here, so I can't quite see. It's our early career network. So we'll be looking at the early career network. It will be termly remote sessions. We've called it early career, but this is actually not just really or for your early career teachers, it's also for your NQT plus ones, NQT plus two science teachers, because obviously these teachers have missed out on significant chunks of their training, the school-based training, because, you know, if you were training 2019 to 20, you spent 6 months teaching on Teams or Zoom. It's not the same as getting into the classroom and doing practical work. So these are looking at some remote sessions that will focus on the pedagogical content knowledge, and then some half days or full days of face-to-face practical work in the biology, chemistry and physics disciplines. Obviously there's networking opportunities there, and as it says on the slide, ideal for RQTs as well as your early career teachers. There is a cost to that, but which obviously goes towards the cost of the facilitators, the venue, the practical equipment, technician time, but there are also bursaries available as well. So for example, for the £450 package, there's a bursary of £300 available. So that would actually only cost £150. So please do contact me direct. My email address is at the end of the slides, and I presume the slides will get emailed around afterwards. So my contact details will be available. And then we're doing something similar with heads of science networks. That will be termly remote meetings looking at planning in the light of COVID, updates from Ofsted, CPD updates and so on. And there will be face-to-face conferences. We're planning those. There will be Birmingham face-to-face conferences for approximately 30 to 40 teachers in November. Working on the dates for those right now, but that's £185 for the whole package for the conferences and the remote meetings, and there's bursaries available there as well. So do email, ask me about the bursaries. And CLEAPS courses, so we haven't left behind your science technicians who again haven't been able to get out to face-to-face training for 18 months. We've got a large range of these courses taking place in Birmingham and Coventry as well, and we know that the CLEAPS are nationally recognised accredited courses, so these would be great for your technicians as well. In addition to any of this, if you are a school, primary, secondary or FE, who want specific support with your science, it could be consultancy, it could be CPD for your science department, it could be a range of options, we can do that as well. So we have a large bank of facilitators based across the Birmingham area and beyond who can come and support you with after school training, could be done during an inset day. And then we run these at cost, and there will then be bursaries available. So you'd be getting that for less than the cost of the CPD. So again, just do get in touch about that. So we've just recently, last week in Coventry and in Birmingham, ran 2 days on the Ofsted Research Review in Science, and those were well attended. But we'd love to run those again, because that's looking at some quite specific pedagogical aspects of teaching science, such as substantive knowledge and disciplinary knowledge. And if you're head of science, or there's someone in your science team who's armed with this terminology and is able to confidently talk about your curriculum, that's going to be great when not just when Ofsted come in, but also for improving the quality of teaching and learning of science in your schools. And that's what we're all about. We're not really about ticking a box for Ofsted, but it is about improving the provision of science across primary and secondary schools in Birmingham. If that's something you might be interested in, drop me a line and we'll try and get that scheduled again in Birmingham before Christmas. There is some specific schools that we have a limited amount of funding available to subsidise support. If you want to know if you're on the list of priority secondary schools, just drop me a line and I will let you know. Obviously, I'm not going to publicly list those schools now, but that's some specific schools that are entitled to additional support. And if you have some outstanding practitioners who would be able to deliver CPD for us, we have some facilitated training based. So the facilitated training course is 3 stages. Stage one is the associate facilitator, and those people can then deliver any of our courses for us. Stage 2 would be for people looking on to do some consultancy, bespoke support at schools, and stage 3 are for people who would then train the future facilitators. We've got full day 2nd November at Bishop Challoner. There will then be a remote twilight on the 8th of December and an afternoon face-to-face at Bishop Challoner in January as well. There's all our contact details. So I've got a primary lead, Hannah Starr. Please contact her about all things primary, myself for secondary and anything in general, and our administrator, Jack. Please also follow us on Twitter and Facebook, because we regularly post updates on Twitter and Facebook. So I think that is the last slide. So I'm just going to stop sharing. And does anybody have a question or want further information? Would it help to put my email address in the chat, possibly? Which I'll just do anyway. So please do get in touch if you have any science training needs, or if you want to know more about the individual courses or sessions that I've talked about in my presentation just now, please. Okay, I guess I'll hand back to Danyetha.
Thank you everybody for coming. We really, really appreciate the efforts you put in. That was really great. We will be putting this recorded session on our website. So if you have any colleagues that want to see and missed it, then they'll be able to access those from Thursday onwards. Thank you for your time and have a wonderful day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.